Let's talk about after that. After you became an adult and you had a choice to either be a victim your entire life or thrive.
Oh, dude, I've lived my life.
Okay, tell us about that.
So yes, this is from a comedy show, but this is the reality people in the United States are expected to live by. In your daily life, no matter what happens, you are expected to be positive and upbeat. Even in your intimate conversations with friends, if you open your mouth about a genuine difficulty, one that does not fit within small talk or gossip, you may inevitably be shut down with the typical instruction, just be positive. In her article, The Tyranny of the Positive Attitude in America, Barbara Held writes, the push for the positive attitude has, in some of its manifestations, become tyrannical, in that Americans have come to live not only with a historically, culturally grounded inclination for optimism, but with the expectation, with the demand, that they maintain a positive attitude at all times and at all costs. Indeed, we are now literally bombarded with messages from many sectors of society that exhort us to smile and look on the bright side, to keep our chins up, and of course, to have a nice day, no matter how hard life gets. We must do this especially when life is at its hardest, and we are expected to do this even when we find that we cannot, or if we can, it is only with great emotional effort and cost. This is what I mean by the tyranny of the positive attitude, and I believe it has hidden negative consequences for our psychological and relational health. And where does this tyranny come from? One obvious example is The Secret by Australian author Rhonda Byrne and as promoted by Oprah Winfrey.
Basically, the message of The Secret is the message that I've been trying to share with the world on my show for the past 21 years. The message is that you're really responsible for your life. You are responsible for your life. I've known this. I've known this since The Color Purple.
So how are you responsible for your own life? You just have to choose to be positive. And unfortunately, this is one of many American and/or Western products that has been translated and exported to other countries. And here is a quick story. A friend of mine from Southeast Asia left her country to help her husband save up money for a house, leaving her husband and child behind. Her husband, who had no sign of health issues, died of a heart attack in his sleep. My friend blamed herself for years after the fact because she had worried something might happen to him while she was working in another country. What was her reasoning? This same law of attraction. Because she thought something negative could happen, and something negative did happen. Therefore, to her mind, it was her own fault. In contrast to the idea that your choices do not have any real impact in the world, that you can relinquish control over all things. In other words, the idea that everything happens for a reason, as I have discussed in previous videos. This push for positive thinking holds up the idea that you are in control of all things. Nothing external could possibly cause you to fail. If you fail, it's because you have not thought positively. Beyond The Secret, you have The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. Published in 1952, the book pushes the mantra, visualize, prayerize, and finally actualize. And its author insists that obstacles are simply not permitted to destroy your happiness and well-being. You need be defeated only if you are willing to be. So, if you are defeated, well, it's just your own fault. Beyond any individual books, there is a multi-billion-dollar industry, or self-help, pushing these types of ideas about positivity. Returning to Barbara Held, she cites various literature highlighting the idea that as material wealth has increased in the U.S., our self-reported subjective happiness has decreased. And she writes the following. Why is it that as we have become wealthier, we have pushed more vehemently for a positive attitude? Yet our levels of subjective well-being either do not increase or depending on the method of measurement, they actually decrease. And she notes that subjective well-being or happiness as the only fundamental human good is one place to start. If there indeed now exists unprecedented pressure to accentuate the positive, could it then be that the pressure itself to be happy contributes to at least some forms of unhappiness? In my own experience, both as an American and as a clinical psychologist, I have repeatedly noticed that some people seem to feel guilty, defective, or both when they can't feel good. They sometimes apologize for not being able to smile in the face of adversity, as if they were committing an act of treason by feeling and acting unhappy. Some have suggested that our cultural-wide tolerance for unhappiness has diminished, that we have become less able to accept feeling bad sometimes as a healthy response to the inevitable pain of life. Now we rush to label as pathological depressed or anxious feelings, even when they seem rational in the context of certain life experiences, and we treat them medically with mind-numbing drugs. Or we call ourselves victims and join 12-step support groups. Obviously, there is a time and a place to force yourself to smile, to pretend like everything is okay when it is absolutely not. And although we have many avenues for the professional victim to express themselves, this push for positivity often leaves the everyday person with no means of constructively addressing their own negative thoughts and emotions, even amongst their loved ones and friends. Because responding to negative life events in any negative fashion is not only frowned upon, it is pathologized in our culture. It's seen as a denial of responsibility. The reality is, however, just be positive, or the tyranny of positive thinking is just another excuse of denying our own responsibility towards the people in our own lives. And next time, I will dig into some of the research related to negative emotions or negative affect. I hope to see you there.